round the show off by covering this week in wrestling. So if you'd like to kick us off, Carl, with the Raw, not the most recent, not the one that's just happened, because we're still recording, guys. Give us time.
My bad.
No, it's no one's bad, Carl. It's WWE's bad for having a 3-hour fucking show, or we could probably box it off. But hey ho, it's still recording, guys. We'll watch it and then we'll do it on Sunday or Monday. It'll be Monday because we've got Extreme Rules this week. I'm digressing.
Makes sense.
So,
makes sense.
Do you want to talk about the Raw? Do you want to talk about that Raw, the other Raw?
Yes, let's do it. So I think, as you've probably come to notice over the last kind of few weeks, we're keeping these a little bit more concise now. So I won't go into too much detail. But in terms of the match card that we found for this Raw, so Drew McIntyre took on an old friend.
An old friend?
Who could that be? Sasha Banks took on Kairi Sane. She's back. What? Kevin Owens' show took place with special guest Seth Rollins, because we haven't seen enough of them two together.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to go well. Yeah.
Then we got to see, spoilers for how that went. We get to see Seth Rollins and Murphy take on Kevin Owens and Rey Mysterio. So Rey's back now too.
Where's Theory?
I don't know. I've got a theory about that. We'll get onto that. Then we get to see MVP and Lashley take on Ricochet and Cedric Alexander.
Right.
Because why not?
Sure.
Yeah. Big Show is back, putting on a big show with the Viking Raiders, taking on Randy Orton, teaming with the Mexicals, Garza and Andrade.
Yeah, there's some things that need to be said about that match.
We also get to see Ruby Riott take on Billie Kay for some reason.
Right.
I guess, she took on Peyton Royce previous week, so why not?
Yeah, you got to round it off.
And then the main event of the evening was Asuka taking on Bayley. So, interesting card, to say the least, in terms of the highlights. So, I mentioned Drew McIntyre was going to take on someone from his past, and holy shit, it was Heath Slater. Didn't see that coming.
No, I got to admit, very unexpected.
So, holy shit. Yeah, I mean, just throwing it out there, though, did anybody really get fired?
I'm curious where they're going with this, because he's still in his 90 days, so he could be playing ball. I wouldn't. I would be rather stroppy, and even if I had to come out and do a bit because I'm still under contract, I'd probably be deliberately shit at it. But
don't forget, Zack Ryder allowed WWE to film the fucking Mandy Rose and Otis pool scene in his pool after he just got fired. So, some people play ball. But,
No, I'm curious whether he's playing ball and maybe getting a little bit of a paycheck for being on the show, but he's still released, or whether there's potential here. I don't know. But it does beg the question, like, there's so many people coming back and popping back up now. It's like, what's actually happened in terms of the releases? I feel like eventually everyone's going to be back except for one person. And it's
just Sarah Logan.
Zack Ryder's going to be there like, wait, you guys weren't really fired? Oh.
But yes, you can film in my pool again. But yeah, so I don't know, like I was shocked by this, like, holy shit. And Dolph brings him back to kind of get to Drew, and Heath cuts a very kind of scathing, like, hitting you in the feels kind of promo, as a dad, as I'm sure you will also agree.
Yeah, I believe he's got kids.
He has got kids, and he even kind of broke kayfabe a bit. It was like, I haven't got like the 22 kids that they want you to believe. I've got 2 kids, and I'm struggling to feed them right now, and I need this opportunity. And I was like, fuck me.
Yeah, it hits home. It's like, God, yeah.
So
as fellow parents, you'd be like, yeah.
Yeah. So got me right in the feels. Definitely an epic promo, I think, from Heath. But yeah, unfortunately, the match itself was a fucking squash. Like, Drew absolutely hammered him.
Naturally, yeah.
And, so yeah, I don't know. What a shame. Hopefully something comes from it, I think, for Heath, because
I think the momentum is there. Like, it makes a lot of sense. It was similar to what they could have done with Jinder. Jinder had been hindered by an injury.
It's horrible when they hinder Jinder.
Yeah, the trouble is you shouldn't hinder Jinder, but sometimes Jinder is hindered.
It's even worse when Jinder hinders Jinder. So
exactly, sometimes these things happen.
Jinder's hindered Jinder, and now he's sat at home on Tinder, and it's a
yeah. But you shouldn't hinder Jinder on Tinder. I don't know where we can go with this. I'm struggling to think about one. But I feel like this might be like good for Heath in that sense, because we can say, well, we'll do with him what we were going to do with Jinder. Now, obviously, as far as build goes, they're not going to probably go, well, yeah, you're going to be a credible threat to Drew, which is why he got squashed. But it doesn't necessarily mean he's gone, because it was kind of a they're kind of still friends. Like he's pissed off with them, but they're not enemies. Do you know what I mean? It's a weird setup. So I could see maybe a little bit of a 3M or a 2MB reunion. Maybe, I don't know. I don't think this is the last we're going to see of Heath.
Well, I don't know. Like the way they kind of left off with it, and having Dolph kind of turn on Heath and having Drew come and make the save and stuff. It seems like, I don't know. Hopefully it's not over. Hopefully there'll be some way to get Heath back. But yeah, interesting to see where they go with it. But yeah, fucking hell, I was shocked. And what a way to kick off the show. We then had the Kevin Owens show as another highlight, and it barely makes being a highlight, to be fair. I know.
I've never known you highlight these things.
It barely makes it being a highlight, but the promos itself from Owens and Rollins I thought were really good. Apparently, at some point, there was meant to be a tag match booked with Aleister Black and Rey Mysterio taking on Seth and Murphy, but apparently Black was found backstage having been taken out, so Kevin Owens offered to be Rey's partner. In which, because, as they like to do now, the winners of the match end up picking the stipulation for Extreme Rules.
Yeah, well, there's no one actually running the fucking show, apparently, so...
well, yeah, no, exactly. Who
got to decide shit somehow.
Yeah, so, Aleister Black does turn up halfway through, causes another distraction for Dominic to get involved and go after Buddy Murphy, and that led to Rey Mysterio picking up the win and choosing a stipulation. So, it barely made being a highlight, to be fair, but I felt like there was enough that was decent to warrant it being a highlight.
I think this is the thing, is like it builds a story. It continues the build of a story, so it does exactly what it needed to do. I personally have a bit of a pet peeve with every time there's a Kevin Owens show, there's something like this happens. Like, everyone might as well be in the ring gear because we all know there's going to be a match. Like, he's basically a really bad host because he can never not have it evolve into some Jerry Springer shit.
Exactly. I'd love it if he just had like this bald security guard following around everywhere now. From this point on, it was just like the guy from Jerry Springer.
Oh yeah.
I'd love that. But yeah, so I don't know. It was enough to make a highlight. I think. I think that'd be too negative.
I don't think it was okay, wasn't it? I don't think it could merit as an oh shite. It was let's say it did what it needed to do, but I suppose we're just not a fan of the actual like MVP lounge and Kevin Owens show and this, that, and the next thing. It's like, fill it with actual matches, for fuck's sake. So,
holy segue, Batman. The other actual highlight of this week did involve MVP, which I'm also shocked to say. So he's still in the game of recruiting new talent. Although God knows why anyone would want to go with him, since he's obviously quite shite. But basically, he ends up getting into Cedric Alexander's ear about playing second fiddle to Ricochet, which I thought was interesting. Hopefully we don't see the end of that tag team anytime soon. But
yeah, and does anyone play second fiddle in that tag team?
Well, true. But
maybe
I think it was basically
that might actually let us know.
Yeah, I think Ricochet's got like a 365 or something coming out about him. So it was like, oh, why haven't you got a documentary? It was dead petty, but I don't know. I quite like that kind of MVP character, just like being a little fucking backstabbing bastard. So I do quite like that sort of fucking weasel.
No, I think that's fair. That is a fair point. It's an interesting thing. I can't get my head around. I totally agree with your point. Like, why would anyone want to sign with him? But I also can't get my head around his choices either. Like, when he started out doing this shit, and admittedly he weren't booking people, but he was trying to get like big fish. Like, he tried to book Drew, for instance, and so on like that. And even Lashley makes a bit of sense, but it's like, no offense to Cedric, but what's the aim of that?
Yeah, no idea where it's going, but it seems like he's still trying to recruit people for some reason. So let's see whether he actually manages to get anyone. Okay, we also get to see another highlight, which was the women's champ versus women's champ main event. I actually thought it was really good. So Nikki Cross was on commentary for this because she's taking on Bayley at
of course,
a horror show at Extreme Rules. But yeah, so she basically ended up getting carried away by security halfway through because she's just a fucking lunatic. And then Bayley and Sasha tried to basically use that to their advantage to get the kind of the numbers game. But Kairi Sane was there in support of Asuka. Then Nikki kind of comes back and re-emerges as part of the audience, starts banging on the glass and kind of causes that distraction then that allows Asuka to get the Asuka lock on Bayley. But, she ends up wriggling out of it, but then ended up getting rolled up for Asuka to take the win, which I thought, considering Asuka's been on probably the losing end more than she has been the winning end, I thought it was quite big for her to get the win over Bayley.
Yeah, and I think they've done it in a way, like, because they've had it based on the distraction, haven't they? So they haven't really weakened Bailey by taking the loss like that. But yeah, I like it. Worked.
So now on to the O'Shite. Shite. Once again, we get a lame DQ finish. This time it was the Banks and Kairi Sane match, which is a proper shame, really, because the match quality itself is relatively high. But just, I don't know, I've just had it with these kind of shitty DQ finishes. Like, they're so scared for anyone to win. Like, fair dues, they've just brought Kairi Sane back, so maybe they're being protective, but we never cared before. So just have Banks go over. Even if they want to have shenanigans,
now's the right time to have Banks go over because they've not built Sane up yet. So.
Well, exactly. So I don't know. It just felt like a fucking silly. Do you know what I mean? It's just like there's so many of these silly DQ finishes where they're so scared to have anyone win. It's just mad.
And am I right in saying they didn't actually DQ Nia, did they, when she split the fucking head open?
No, they just let it go on. So
it must have confused the hell out of Kairi when the DQ happened there, and she's like, "But exactly. I'm not even concussed."
Probably still got a fucking concussion, so she was doubly confused. So another O'Shite of the week. So MVP has now decided that since he beat Apollo Crews last week, he's already the US champ.
Because that's how it works, MVP. You've been in the wrestling industry for years, so you know exactly that's how it works.
Exactly, right? So now he decides to take the opportunity to unveil a new championship belt, which I'm not actually that keen on, to be fair. But I know that might be a polarizing opinion. But it just,
I think it's
barely see United States, and it just says champion. And it's just big eagle or whatever. And it's like, okay, not a fan.
No, I much prefer the older version.
But, so he's basically saying that he's the US champ. And Bobby Lashley's perfectly fine with this and actually crowns MVP himself. Like, hang on. This guy's your manager. He fucking failed to get you a win as the heavyweight champ. And now he's helping you get the US title. And now he just took it for himself and you're cool.
Yeah.
Like,
this is as confusing as Sami Zayn winning the IC title and Shinsuke being like, cool. Like,
exactly.
He took it from you, dickhead.
It doesn't make any fucking sense, right? And then obviously the match takes place after that with Ricochet and Cedric coming out to challenge them. And MVP and Lashley end up going over. And, these fucking Ricochet and Cedric, two really talented dudes, are back to being glorified jobbers again. Like, after being off TV for so long.
Yeah,
so
a real shame.
Yeah.
And on a side note, this is another prime example of the inmates running the asylum, where there's apparently no one books matches. They just booked on the fly. Stipulations are just booked on the fly. And now apparently if you decide you're a champion, just make your own belts and fucking bring it in.
Why not?
Why not?
Why the fuck not?
Why the fuck not?
Although, we'll get onto this with Dynamite, but apparently that's not just the thing.
I know, I kind of set that up, sorry. Yeah.
But yeah, so then the other O'Shite of the week, so the 3-on-3 tag match was pretty shit. So they're still teasing this Andrade Garza breakup thing. But like they're just not leaning into it. So like they're going into this, they're a tag team even though they hate each other kind of thing. And Orton at one point was fucking fuming and like absolutely lambasted Garza. And
this right here, this was the bit that soured me to the whole thing because I don't get what that Orton bit was about. That did absolutely nothing for Garza. That made Garza look like a little bitch.
Yeah.
And it's like, how are you going to book Garza in the future knowing that all he did was cower to Randy? How is he going to be in the main event scene now when you can look at that? Like, let's look back at his previous history and you just see him like cowering, like he didn't even try and fight back. And it's like, well, what? I'd understand if Orton got mad at him and attacked him, but this was just like Orton just putting him down and him going, it's proper bullying shit. And it just didn't make any sense as a booking. It did nothing for either of them.
And then Orton obviously goes over by pinning fucking Eric of the Viking Raiders, like fucking snooze, like literally shite, absolutely shite. Speaking of shite, R-Truth is pissing me off now, something rotten. So
yeah,
what the fuck? Like we get it. He's meant to be a bit fucking off the rails and a bit fucking cuckoo, but.
I think they've amped it up to a stupid degree now because his off the rails stuff in the past was like, oh, this isn't a ladder match. Whoops, things that like not an honest mistake, but things that you go, well, okay, he doesn't know what match he's in. But now he's just become an absolute fucking cartoon. It's ridiculous.
Well, are they trying to do like a conspiracy theorist angle with him or something? Like he's basically going around. He said last week he thought fucking Nia Jax was Tozawa. And now this week he thinks Ric Flair is Tozawa because he cleans up too nice. What? And then fucking Tozawa shows up. And then Randy Orton sends them the wrong way. Like, why would Orton help R-Truth? What?
Yeah, like...
The fuck? It doesn't make any sense.
I don't think they fully know what they're doing with that.
Yeah. And then the last one, which I've put it in a no shite because it happened, and I don't know why it happened or why it took up any time on TV, but Billie Kay beat Ruby Riott. Okay. Like, are they doing anything with Liv Morgan? Or is it...
Yeah,
you know
she's
what I
going to
mean?
tag team. She's going to be in the Riot Squad again.
But it's like, okay, how stupid does that make her look? You know what I mean? At the same time, like, fucking, I don't know. But
Well,
look,
I think,
don't want to...
Carl, coming up on the next Raw, we might all be surprised at what happened.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you never know.
I've not actually seen the results. You know, you're spoiling it for me.
So,
But yeah, I don't want to spend too much time talking about the negatives. All in all, this wasn't a terrible Raw, considering what we've had over the last few weeks, especially the way it started out with Heath and stuff like that. Like, I thought it was quite a few surprises in there as well. So for me, I'm going to be generous this week. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5.
yeah.
So I don't know what your thoughts are.
I actually, I totally agree with you. I was going to give it a 3 myself. I think it was overall a much better show than they've been putting on. And I'm going to give it the credit on that. There were definitely some weak points, but yeah, not a bad week at all. This, again, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, but it harps onto that. If this was a 2-hour show and you condensed out the shite, it'd be really good. But we have what we have. We have time for weird art, truth, conspiracy theories. So be it.
They need to just give up, don't they? But they're not going to. It's painful.
Very. Right. That being said, then we shall move on to NXT, or the Great American Bash, Night 2.
This time it's Bashir.
So the card itself, Carl, we had Candice LeRae versus Mia Yim in a street fight, with LeRae taking the win. We had Tony Nese, versus Bronson Reed, with Bronson taking the win. We had Isaiah Scott and Johnny Gargano for some reason, with Gargano taking the win. We had, I'm going to try Legado del Fantasma, or Escobar's team, versus the combination of Maverick and Breezango. With,
does that just translate into the Fantastic Lego?
Maybe, yeah. They like the Legos. And surprisingly, but I do think possibly the right result, we saw Escobar and his cronies take the win on that one. We saw Santana Garrett versus Mercedes Martinez, with Mercedes Martinez taking the win. And then we ended the night with Adam Cole versus Keith Lee, with a much-deserved victory from Keith Lee there. As far as the highlights go, Carl, I'll start it out by saying the Cole versus Lee, fantastic match, thoroughly enjoyed. Both work really well together in the ring, and is definitely a highlight because I think it was a great match and the right decision. I think it's the right time to see Lee with both the titles now, as it turns out. The first one to do that, Carl. The first one to hold both NXT and North American title. And it opens up Cole for other things, which we've discussed in the news. Might not be what we wanted, but there you go. The other one I wanted to mention in terms of the highlights was the match between Candice LeRae and Mia Yim. I think needs a definite shout out. This was an absolutely fantastic match to watch. The pair of them really went for it. And correct me if I'm wrong here, Carl, but certainly for me, it's not very often you see two female wrestlers in a street fight. And I think it was a really good way of them pushing the envelope in that sense. And they both really proved that they can be excellent matches, and you don't have to sort of protect them from the weapons and the tables. And it was a lot of fun. Really good match. And the last highlight for me was Escobar and Friends. Just generally, I thoroughly enjoyed the tag match, and I enjoyed their build, and I think it's heading the right direction. They're obviously still building this feud with Maverick and Escobar, but as a whole, this heel faction, I'm thoroughly enjoying the way they're being booked. I think that they're coming across really well, and I think they will be a fantastic addition to NXT going forward. I know right now they're concentrating on this story, but going forward as a trio, I think it's going to be really quite good.
Yeah, I think it's been quite compelling watching his story, hasn't it? To come in as fucking Phantasma or whatever, and then to have that kind of big reveal of, you know, he's actually this guy, he's Escobar, and he's going to, you know, be a fucking heel and stuff like that, and then to build this faction. It's been thoroughly entertaining to watch. I'm quite impressed. I completely agree.
No, sorry, I kind of ran over the other two as well. What did you make of the Cole versus Lee match?
It was really good, wasn't it? I think obviously we'd already had it spoiled for us, hadn't we, by the prick in NXT taking the picture.
Alas, that news article that we put on last week was totally correct.
Yeah, it was one of them. I knew that it, you know, they wouldn't be changing it and stuff like that. So
no,
I think it was one of those where just we already knew what to expect. But, you know, massive props to fucking Keith Lee. You know, the guy who couldn't get booked on the Indies a couple of years ago. I think someone I think it might be me brother had put a picture on Instagram or something of like years ago. He played like a security or a fan or something in a segment with Triple H on Raw, like
Really?
literally
Yeah.
years and years ago.
Wow.
And it's mad to kind of like, I think he just put like, look what a difference so many years could make. Like in areas now, the fucking double champ. So yeah,
Crazy.
massive, fair play to the guy. I think it's just going to be interesting to see where Cole goes next, because obviously there was the Karrion Cross stuff, but then does that mean Karrion's going to go after Keith now?
Yeah,
And
I'm
if so,
intrigued by
where
that
does Cole go?
because Karrion, they didn't really make it clear whether Karrion was after Cole or after the title. So I'm intrigued whether it's going to go into, and I'd love to see Karrion versus Keith Lee, because Karrion has proved that he wouldn't be sort of outperformed by Keith's size. He'd still probably be able to throw him on the ring.
It'd be a whole different challenge for Lee, wouldn't it? Really, because he's always been kind of against the lighter opponent, if you will, whereas Karrion's built like a fucking beast. So
yeah, that's the thing. It's like Keith has got the sort of thing of being the surprisingly nimble big guy, so they can't really take him down, but he can fly around. Whereas Karrion legitimately we've seen him versus Bronson Reed, so we know that he wouldn't really struggle to suplex Lee, in all fairness. So yeah, be an interesting one, that, and I hope that is where they're going with it.
Mm-hmm.
And as for the other highlight I mentioned, the LeRae versus Yim, what did you think of this match, Carl?
I think as you said, you kind of hit the nail on the head with it. They shouldn't be scared to put the women in matches like street fights and stuff, and I think these guys really delivered. Candice LeRae's been a fucking prodigy on the indie scene for a while now, and she continues to kind of show how good she is, week in, week out, when she does actually get match time in NXT. And then Mia Yim is someone I've not really been that familiar with, but she obviously delivers as well every time I see her. So I thought it was great from both of them. I completely agree. Yeah. It was definitely a highlight of the show.
Awesome. So I'll go into the O'Shites then, Carl. And to be honest, I've sort of got some, but I've not. Basically, it was really quite a good night for NXT, in all honesty. All of the matches were good. I can't say any of them were bad. But the main O'Shite, or the only O'Shite I've got, is the fact that overall, I think this was one night's worth of content that they've spread over two to sort of parallel Fyter Fest. And for me, like, although they weren't bad matches, when you get matches like Gargano versus Isaiah Swerve, it's like, okay, like, it was okay, it was a good match, but like, it was clearly filler. And there's nothing wrong with filler, but at the same time, it's like, well, for me, you've had two weeks now where you could have really just had one condensed week of all the stuff we really wanted. But at the same time, they had us tuning in both weeks, so I get why they did it. But as far as no shite goes, like, they weren't bad matches. But the likes of Isaiah Scott versus Gargano, or Tony Nese versus Reed, and to a lesser extent, Santana Garrett versus Mercedes Martinez, they were all like, they were there. They were all right matches, but they're certainly not ones that I'm writing home about, as it were. So that's pretty much it for the negative. I don't have a specific negative, but that overall, I'd say that's probably my thoughts on the Great American Bash as a whole, really.
Yep.
As a rating, I would again, similar to Raw, I would give it a 3. It was a decent week. I dare say pushing potentially towards a 3.5 maybe, but I think, in all fairness, given the weaker matches, be a 3 for me.
Okay, interesting. I also had a 3. I think I was leaning between a 2.5 and a 3. I think it was probably middle of the road for me in terms of, I think we had 6 matches, 3 of them were decent, 3 of them not so much. But I think the ones that were decent were good enough to give it that extra half point. So for me, I think a 3 is fair. It was definitely on the same level as Raw, if not marginally better. Yeah,
fair point. Right, Carl. Do you want to talk about the other big show of the week?
Let's do it. So Fyter Fest Night 2, as part of AEW Dynamite. So the match card that we got to witness, we saw Hangman Adam Page and Kenny Omega defend their tag team titles by defeating Private Party, who had earned the title shot the previous week. Cool. Lance Archer defeated Joey Janela, which is not surprising. We heard from Taz and Brian Cage around the match for Fight for the Fallen. It's going to be,
of course, yeah, because originally planned for Fyter Fest Night 2. So yeah, interesting one.
Absolutely. We got to see a 8-man tag with Butcher and Blade and Lucha Brothers actually defeating Young Bucks and FTR, which is quite a surprise.
Very.
Nyla Rose defeated 2 jobbers, so Nyla's back and doing what she does best, is breaking some jobbers. The Dark Order, which was actually consisted of Brody Lee, Stu Grayson, and Colt Cabana, defeated SCU. And Chris Jericho defeated Orange Cassidy, which was, I don't know whether I expected it or not, but either way, we'll come on to it.
Yeah.
So the highlight itself, so the opening match, I thought was pretty good. So Private Party, you know what, those guys look excellent every time I see them. It's a bit of a travesty, really, that we've been going so long without seeing them on the main shows. But like, we saw it with Mark Quinn when he had his TNT title opportunity, and then we've seen it the last kind of 2 weeks now with Private Party. They are just really, really good. And you put them in the ring with the likes of Kenny Omega, who's probably one of the best in the world, and Hangman Page, who's also fantastic. You know, there was no way this could be, this could go wrong. And I preferred this to the Best Friends match of last week, actually, which is the main event. So a bit surprising, really, that they had this open the show. And obviously last week...
I mean, despite it being an opener, I think it was definitely a well-deserved shot for Private Party. Like you say, they're a really good tag team and probably get overshadowed a little bit by the other tag teams we've got in the division. Yeah,
definitely. No, I thought it was really good. Just I still don't really understand the whole Matt Hardy inclusion in this, if I'm perfectly honest.
Feels like, I know he's
I know he's a previous tag team vet, and it's nice for them to have like a mentor or whatever. But yeah, I don't know, not buying it. So that bit's a bit weird. But yeah, I thought this was a really strong opening contest, and it was better than the tag match of the last week as well. So really, really good. The 8-man tag was actually really good also. So so often do we see these kind of big multi-man matches just feel really all over the place and like really hard to follow.
I legitimately say that every time we have something with so many moving parts, I always complain about the fact that we've got too much going on. And yeah, whilst it was a very big match with a lot of moving parts, probably one of the better ones, to be fair.
Well, that was it. Like, for me, it was action-packed, but in the right way. Like, everyone still got a chance to shine. Like, some of the action, like, some of the spots in this match were just incredible. Like, that fucking springboard Canadian Destroyer to the outside. Like, fuck me. Like, fuck me. That was just... holy shit. That was like you know what I mean? Like, you get flashbacks to fucking throwing Foley off a Hell in a Cell. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, not quite that scale, but like, holy shit. Like, could have died. That was insane. So yes, like stuff like that was just awesome to see. But what I really liked as well was after the fact we get to see the Bucks and FTR, their relationship's just even more strained, off the back of this as well. And Matt Jackson accidentally super kicks Dax Hardwood, and that ultimately cost him the match basically. But yeah, I think this was a good way to. It doesn't kind of dampen either of the two teams, but if anything, it incites the rivalry more of the Bucks and FTR. But I thought, yeah, for a multi-man match, like it was like night and day to some of the other ones we've seen where it's just all over the place. This was well thought out and everyone got a good opportunity, and there was just some good, great stuff.
It's one bit of credit I'll give AEW at the minute is that they seem to be able to book a lot of things like this where there's a lot of people involved, but everyone still gets their opportunity. They seem to be like not quite the same thing, but like looking at the Stadium Stampede, like no one really lost out on that. Everyone got their airtime, but there was a lot of people involved, and they seem to be able to get that across without it feeling like right now's this bit. It just feels organic, but it doesn't feel chaotic. It's a very difficult thing to do, and I think that for the most they do it well.
Yeah, definitely. And then my final highlight of the week was actually the main event, which was Jericho and Orange Cassidy. I mean, it was fire. It was legit. It was awesome. I think it over-delivered in my book because I expected good things, but like the way it kind of all transpired and stuff, I feel like they gelled really well together. There was really good character development on show as well. Like, Orange Cassidy wasn't just a laid back guy. Like he proper took it to Jericho and kind of took Jericho by surprise. Like the stuff that, I think you mentioned Price was going in the air where, Orange Cassidy tries the kicks. Jericho thinks he's got it telegraphed and he knows, but then all of a sudden he follows up with a super kick. You know what I mean? It was just like these little character developments that kind of make sense. Yeah, I haven't really got too much to say on the match other than the fact it was really good. I wasn't necessarily expecting Jericho to take it, if I'm honest. But it makes perfect sense that he did, and I think it still got Cassidy over without him even winning the match. So
definitely, I think it's brilliant with Cassidy because I think a lot of people originally were thinking it was like a silly gimmick, which it kind of is, but it's like without a purpose. Like he's a wrestler who's a bit lazy. Like I remember it being likened to like, oh, we all have that people who they come in and do the job and they do as little as they can, because it's a job. And I was like, okay, it's funny when it happens, but what we've seen with him now, like in his match against Pac and in this match and stuff, is that it's a tactical move, because he plays possum to the point that they think that they're gonna have to compete with that sort of elements of him dodging them and trying to avoid doing anything. And then when he actually goes for them, when it sort of explodes with like a super kick or like a leap over the top ropes or whatever, it throws them off guard, and it feels like a deliberate tactical move then, and becomes a little less silly in some senses. But I think it's great seeing the way it works and seeing the way people can work with it really well. It makes it a very interesting watch.
Yeah, definitely. I was just I thought it was awesome. It was just such a good match, and I think Orange has done a really good job of getting himself over and continuing to stay over and not just become that comedy gimmick as you mentioned.
Definitely so. I just wish he'd be less of a chatterbox, to be honest.
But unfortunately, for the O'Shites, I'm going to kick off with Lance Archer. Like, I really want to like that guy, but I just don't. And I just think booking him against the likes of Joey Janela just felt very meh. Like, he's come off a TNT title opportunity with like a big feud with Cody. He's done fuck all since, and then like the way they bring him back in is against Joey Janela.
Yeah. I'll be honest, and I don't often put AEW down, as you know. I feel like they've gone, we're bored with Lance now. We've got this other guy, this Brian Cage fella, and he seems to have just fallen by the wayside. I don't know what's gone on there from a booking point of view, but it just feels like they've got a new focus. So he can hang around the roster. Yeah,
it definitely doesn't seem like they've got many plans for him. And I think even the way him and Jake have been over the last kind of few weeks, it doesn't make sense either. Do you know what I mean? Like Jake, I think I mentioned last week or the week before, like Jake is a sadistic motherfucker, and to have him kind of going, "Whoa, Lance," like, it doesn't make any sense.
I know. Right?
So yeah. Next is the Taz promo. So look, it was good, the Taz promo, and I think he's been really, really good on the mic since he's kind of come back. And I'm not slating this promo or anything at all in terms of his mic skills or what he was saying, but he reintroduced the FTW Championship, or the Fuck the World Championship, back from the ECW days, which would have been cool if we hadn't just introduced the TNT title like a couple of weeks earlier. But yeah, I don't know. I just, it was nice to have a little kind of reminisce, a bit of a flashback to the old ECW days. Well, obviously, Taz was the originator of that belt. I'm not sure if it was against Sabu or against someone where he couldn't get a title shot, so he just made his own and called himself the champ, and then they ended up unifying the titles. So I don't know whether that's going to be the long-term plan here, but I don't know. It just felt a bit sudden and out of nowhere, and it didn't really make that much sense for the Brian Cage character, who we don't know enough about yet, to kind of, what I mean?
I feel like it made sense in ECW. I think they're trying to mirror what happened. Like, he can't get his title shot, so fuck it. He's gonna make his own title and recognize himself. Mm-hmm. But like you say, we've seen nothing of Brian Cage. We don't know if he deserves a title, and he missed out one week because of the coronavirus. It's like, it's nothing really to get pissy about. But that's kind of the story he's gone for. I was quite intrigued as well, because I genuinely straight away went to myself, but WWE own ECW? And when I've Googled it, apparently, despite it being on ECW, the title and the creation of said title is all credited to Taz, so he actually owns the rights to it, even though historical footage that is owned by WWE will feature that title. Crazy. I thought they would have owned it. Just felt natural, but
back in the old ECW days, I don't think there was any kind of, Heyman is a great booker, but he's not a great businessman. So I think he's stuff like that was happening all the time. But yeah, I don't know. I just don't think Cage kind of needed it right now, and I don't think AEW needs it right now, especially when they've just come with the TNT title. No, so
I feel like they were literally just going for a bit of shock value because they couldn't put on the Mox match.
Yeah, I think it worked. Like it was all over social media afterwards and stuff. So fair play.
So it did that job. Yeah,
you can't have much of a long game for it. So I don't know. It just feels a bit of a damn squib thing. So then the next one. So the Nyla squash. I don't know. Just very meh. Like, she's obviously been this dominant champ, and she's obviously gone on to win the belt and be this kind of unstoppable force. And yeah, she just kind of comes back and takes on these two people and batters them, and it's just very bland. Although not good enough to make it a highlight. I am intrigued at the fact that she had a promo after the match and basically said that she's going to have a new manager. So I'm wondering who that's going to be, whether that's going to be like an old school face, like to bring in as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, or whether they're going to go with something else. But
it would be an intriguing.
I'd quite like to see it be like, I don't know, like a guy maybe, and someone who's like fearful of her and stuff. Do you know what I mean? Not like the what's his face in NXT, fucking guy who's trying to sign all the people like alive.
Oh, Robert Stone.
Robert, yeah, none of that shit. But like, I wouldn't mind seeing it be someone who's like, I don't know, a bit more of a mouthpiece for her, but also is like terrified of her at the same time.
Because to be fair, she's not really much of a mouthpiece, is she? So the manager prospect is probably a good one in terms of her going forward.
It's going to be fucking Brandy Rhodes or something, let's be honest. It'll be something fucking shite. But
no, I think they learned a lesson with the Nightmare Collective.
Yeah. And so the final one, it's just a Dark Order match. Like, again, I just feel like that was pretty average as well. Like, you know, it's good in a sense that they're using it. Like, I like the fact that, you know, Colt is happy because the other guys are letting him pick up the wins and he can't do it on his own and he wants to win. So that bit makes sense. But I don't know. Like, other than that, it seems a bit, I think I mentioned last week, it feels like Colt Cabana's the wrong choice for this faction. And, you know, obviously, you know, he shook hands with Brody after the match. So I'm not too sure where it's all going to lead. And I'm a little bit intrigued. But the match itself, I thought on the night was a bit meh. And also the fact that it's still Colt with the Dark Order still feels just a bit weird.
Yeah. I'm not particularly over on Colt. So it lessens my interest in the Dark Order stuff, I'll be honest.
I mean, to be fair, I'm more over on his entrance music, and you know, I hope he doesn't lose that when he goes to Dark Order. To be honest, because that's fire.
Fair enough.
Colt Cabana, boom, boom.
Love it. As a rating, Carl.
That was Dynamite for me. So I think, you know, again, I'm going to have to go a 3 out of 5, and I feel like I'm just a bit of a broken record with all the shows this week. I'm sure that's going to change when we get on SmackDown, but I won't ruin anything.
Well, this is the problem, Carl, because I'd agree with you. I'd also give it a 3. So it looks like we're going to have a week of 3s. It's going to be a really good week for wrestling. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I can't see SmackDown being any worse, right? Right.
Well, let's talk about SmackDown, Carl. Let's talk about it, right? As far as the card goes, we had The Miz versus Jeff Hardy for some reason, with Jeff taking the win, right? We had Banks and Bayley taking on Bliss and Cross, because we've not seen that before. Banks and Bayley took the win. We had a karaoke thing for some fucking reason, which led to Naomi versus Lacey. And I don't really think we had a winner because it kind of devolved into a brawl, although it was never an official match because we don't book matches. Don't even get me started on that. And then we had New Day versus Shinsuke and Cesaro, which ended in a no contest, which I'll moan about in my own shites. And that was the card. Now, highlights. I haven't fucking got any. It's the worst fucking SmackDown I've seen in a very, very, very fucking long time. The only good thing about this week was the fact that we actually had a promo with AJ Styles, right? And even that was a bit shit because he was there doing his thing and saying no one deserves a title shot. And then they were like, well, you've got a title match next week. And I'm like, this is the fundamental flaw in your plan, AJ, because apparently you don't book the matches. So it's not really up to you who deserves a title shot or not, because you didn't even know you fucking had a match. So even that was kind of stupid. But I'll put it in the highlights for the sake of having one, and the fact that we're going to get AJ versus Matt Riddle next week for the title. Okay, that's some good because they put on good matches with each other, right? Let's talk the O'Shites, Carl. One of the most cringeworthy things I have ever fucking seen in my life, right, is this karaoke fucking match or whatever, basically just a sing-off or whatever, right, between we had Lacey Evans, Naomi, Tamina, and the other one. Who was the other one, Carl? Who was the last one in there? And the forgettable one, because I can't remember who the other person was. Dana Brooke, thank you. And the idea of the karaoke match, Carl, they all had to sing wrestlers' themes. Apparently, we don't have any good singers. Okay. The whole thing was hosted by one of the Usos, the one that's not injured. Jimmy? Is it Jimmy? I want to say it's Jimmy.
Yeah.
Slightly amusing in the fact that he clearly had a bias towards Naomi. I wonder why, right? But yeah, it was just some awful singing. an entirely stupid concept, a waste of a lot of good talent. I don't know if you agree with me here, but it felt like a little bit of a jab as well when they had, I want to say it was Dana Brooke singing Dusty Rhodes' theme.
Yeah.
Like that just felt like you're trying to have a pop at Cody, but maybe I'm seeing something that's not there. And then again, I don't know, as a concept, this kind of bugged me as well, that they went to the crowd for the results of who won, when we all know that the crowd are performance center talents who've clearly been instructed who to cheer for. So it's like, again, I'm willing to suspend disbelief, but everyone just lost their shit for Naomi for some reason. Okay. Yeah, and then the whole thing devolved into Naomi and Lacey going for each other, but then that didn't result in a match because then Dana and Tamina, I keep going to call her Nia, apologies, and Tamina got involved, and then that turned into a brawl, and the two originally started fighting just fucking left. Total fucking chaos, absolutely confusing thing, and not something I want to see on SmackDown. I tuned in to watch a wrestling show, and while I'm willing to, to buy into the fact that they have stupid segments here and there, I mean, this was worse than seeing Jeff Hardy throw a jar of piss on Sheamus, I'll be honest with you. How bad this was. What did you make of the karaoke match, Carl? Did you enjoy?
I feel like it just ruined like 5+ years of women's evolution.
This is the funny thing. We're actually in Women's Evolution Week. I forgot to mention that too. We're meant to be celebrating women.
Holy
what the fuck
shit.
was this?
This felt like all it needed was them to be fucking singing it in a fucking tub of gravy or something.
Yeah,
just to really make it.
I'm surprised they didn't. I'm surprised they didn't make them come out in their underwear. That's how old school wrestling this felt like. It's like, no, you can't wrestle. No.
Women. I just felt bad for the performance. You know what I mean? Like, I think what's the name? Trinity.
Trinity.
What's she called?
Trinity Fatu.
Yeah, she obviously put I feel like fucking like one of those jerks who calls them by their real names as opposed to the Naomi posted a tweet after the fact saying, obviously, sometimes you got to turn chicken shit into chicken salad. And, it was definitely one of them. Like, obviously, you could see how uncomfortable they all were. Like, the cringiest part, like, you know what I mean? Fucking Tamina headbanging to Triple H's theme music and stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like, what's happening? What the fuck is going on? It was awful. I'd love to know. So bad.
And this goes back into what I was saying about Bruce Pritchard, right? This is the shit we're getting booked now because he's too busy. Someone else was given control of this and they thought this was a fucking good idea, and it clearly worked.
Lost for words. I was just flabbergasted by it, to be honest. I just couldn't believe I was seeing this in today's product. It was just shite.
Yeah, there's not more you can say. It's just you need to see it to see how ridiculous it was. But please watch it on YouTube or something, so WWE don't think it was worth.
Definitely,
watching.
As well as you were saying, it was 100% a shot at Cody by using Dusty's music.
I feel so. Like, how random was that choice?
Yeah, pathetic. Absolutely pathetic.
Like, it didn't make any sense anyway. Like, who would randomly pick Dusty Rhodes? No offense, Dusty, by the way, but who would randomly pick that theme? It's definitely a shot. So the other shite, not as annoying, but again, just an example of like, let's not really concentrate on SmackDown this week. They replayed the Money in the Bank match with Bray and Braun, and this was only okay the first time I saw it. Didn't need to see a replay of the entire match. This isn't the same equivalence as watching the Boneyard match again. This was a mediocre match that we've have to go through again because they're going to have a match at Extreme Rules. Just kind of like lazy. We could have had another Firefly Funhouse. We could have had something that's still tied into the match pending without just playing this match again. It was shit in it.
Yeah, absolute like fucking waste of time. No effort whatsoever. We'll just play another match and say it's a build to the feud. No, it wasn't. It was lazy. Didn't do anything. Shite.
And then the next shite I have was the kind of everything that happened with Jeff. Right. The reason being, again, I know it's a show. It's a show and so on. But how many times are we going to have Miz and Morrison do Miz TV? Right, and people come out and act like they weren't expecting them to be assholes. Like, Jeff should be fully aware what was. I much prefer genuinely the way Braun came out. The way Braun came out to Miz TV and was like, "Yeah, I know what you're gonna do. Let's have a match. Let's do." Jeff's coming out to do an interview, and it's like, "Do you not know how this works, Jeff? They're gonna take the piss. You're gonna get angry, and we're gonna have a match. That's how it works." And then apparently the match for Extreme Rules. yes, has been booked between him and Sheamus as a bar fight, purely because The Miz suggested it. Like, that's how bookings work. So they're going to have a bar fight now, Carl, because then he can fight both of his foes, Alcohol and Sheamus. Just total fucking cringe. I'm kind of done with the whole thing. Again, and I know I sound like a broken record, but like, Sheamus has beat him twice now. Even if he wins at Extreme Rules, it's still 2-1. I don't understand the point in carrying this shit on. He's been battered twice, and it weren't even like, he was fighting tooth and nail. He got absolutely dominated. It was practically a squash both times. So what are we to expect with this?
I know what we're going to expect.
Being smashed.
I've got a fear this is going to turn into like Corbin territory, where this is just going to still go on for many more weeks.
Yeah, it'll have to end in a cage, because, why not?
Because, I mean, like, if you think about it, if this ends, where do either of them go?
Yeah,
there's nothing for either of them.
This is the thing, yeah. And I still really can't understand, as a story point of view, like, Sheamus is just sort of unnecessarily hostile towards Jeff. It's like, you've beat him, you got what you wanted, you beat him up twice now, and you're still hassling him. It's like, what do you want? Like, I'm all for the villain role, but he hasn't actually. All he did was actually return to SmackDown. He didn't actually do anything to him.
No.
It's the loosest built feud I've ever seen in my life. Yeah. Anyway, this last one, I'm interested on what you think of this. Right, the last match we had, the New Day versus Shinsuke and Cesaro, ended in a no contest because the ref couldn't get control of the match. But the reason it's in me shite is not even the fact that they booked it that way. I'm all for like that sort of shenanigans. It pisses me off. I'm all for it. But it was the fact that it happened so quick. Like, basically the Big E was out of it for a little bit. He comes back in. It ends up in a bit of a brawl in the ring. And then there was no, I'm going to count to 5 just to separate. There's nothing. It was just, no, calling the match. And it's like, whoa, the fuck was that? And then on top of it, it was like, it ended with Shinsuke and Cesaro celebrating like they'd won something. It's like, you didn't realize for not listening to the ref, you fucked your own title match. This was a title match. You lost. You didn't get the titles, and you stood there celebrating like you won because you beat them up. Like, anyone with, like, you're wrestlers first and foremost. So like, you should be pissed off with yourselves because the ref called it a no contest because you wouldn't get out of the fucking ring. The whole way it was set up was kind of just stupid. And again, just lazy booking to carry on this, because I assume there's going to be another match at some point between them, one with maybe no stipulation to it. I don't know, but it's just really kind of weird and lazy the way they put this together. And the ref was just way too quick off the trigger to go like, yeah, no contest. I can't get control of these people. Like, I've seen them put up with a lot more.
Oh yeah, it was yeah. Yeah, I've literally got no words. Literally for that.
Yeah, to quote Jeff Hardy's theme music, there are no more words.
There are no more words. Yeah, just how lazy is that? So not even is it a case of, oh, well, we're just going to do like a smosh kind of finish. It was the referee can't control the match after Big E comes in for 2 seconds.
Yeah,
what?
It would have been less confusing for me if it had been a count out or something. It happened that sort of randomly that I had to double take. I'm like, why did that get thrown out? I even rewound it, and it was like, what? Just because Big E rolled into the ring. It's like, wait, what?
Yeah, fucking shite. Yeah. Absolutely shite.
Yeah. If the ref had made any effort to separate them and we weren't getting anywhere, it might have made a little bit of sense to me, but it was not put over well at all as to why that went to no contest. But again, WWE with the screwy finishes lately just seems to happen way too much.
Yeah.
How many DQs and no contests and count outs are we going to get?
Too many.
And that, very quickly, was SmackDown. All shite and no fight. It's rubbish. For me, it gets a 1. It's only getting a 1 because there was some form of wrestling in there. As a side note, because I forgot to mention it, Corbin wasn't involved at all in this week, which I have no issue with, but they're meant to be building a feud between him and Riddle. Riddle didn't show up this week, and Corbin didn't show up this week, so I've no idea what that's about. Once again, no hacker. We'd no actual Braun or Bray. Just not a lot going on at all this week. So it's a 1. It's a 1 for me.
Same. 1 for me as well. Like, fine, you've got like an AJ Styles promo. Nothing. Like, he's not there. The fucking champion isn't there. We just get to see a fucking match that we saw a couple of weeks ago. We get to see that karaoke thing. Oh, it was awful. It was so bad.
So cringe.
It was fucking terrible. A 1 is generous.
Yeah. Yeah. We might, if SmackDown keeps up, we're going to have to go into negative ratings. This is what's going to happen. And I want you to know, SmackDown and Bruce, if it weren't for you, this would have been a really good week for wrestling. Everything else was a 3.
Yep.
You really let yourselves down.
Brought the whole thing down.
You didn't just let yourself down. You let your other shows down. You let Vince down.
Yeah.
You let Carl down.
I'm hurt. I'm hurt by this.
We're not mad.
Fuck you,
We're
Bruce.
just disappointed. And that was This Week in Wrestling. So, Carl, before we end the show, before we say our goodbyes, I think it's only fair to mention every week we put a little advert at the end of the show, which you might recognise the soothing baritone of Carl. I'm mentioning our sponsor, which is floriday.co.uk, which we encourage you to visit if you hadn't already. The reason I want to mention it sort of like this week is because I think it's only fair to mention, Carl, to our wonderful sponsors, that they have this week released the merch store. If you want to give it a quick mention on some of the things you might be able to find on there.
Yes, I mean, historically, our sponsor is predominantly a news and planning service, but they've recently dipped their toes in the water of releasing some merchandise, some t-shirts, some hoodies, and kind of bags and things like that, caps, etc. So yeah, definitely go and check it out. So as always, you can head over to the website on floriday.co.uk and then go on the shop link, and you'll be able to see all the latest designs. So yeah, I know I'm going to be having a look and trying to pick up a few pieces myself for my holiday when I next go over there next year. So yeah, check them out.
Certainly one I want to mention, Carl. As you know, I'm a big fan of The Simpsons. Admittedly, more the classic version of The Simpsons rather than what we have these days, but I won't go into that. But one of the shirts that I definitely want to pick up is the Orlando t-shirt, which is stylized in a playful, Homer-esque kind of way, which I thoroughly enjoy, and I'll definitely be picking one of those. And am I right in saying, Carl, it's certainly a very good pun, but am I right in saying that there's currently an offer on at the minute?
Yes, I think they've got 15% off for the next 12 days or so. I think it was like a 2-week offer, and I think they must have launched it a couple of days ago. So get in quick, get 15% off.
Pick up your hoodies, your t-shirts, your caps, and various other things. I think they've got tank tops and stuff, but naturally for me, I look at caps, hoodies, and t-shirts. So I'm sure there's plenty of other stuff there as well. But genuinely, guys, have a look, especially while there's an offer on. And obviously, if you're planning on a trip to Florida, it's a very good website to visit. And that, unless there's any other closing notes, Carl, that is another week of the podcast.
That is all from me.
Awesome. Right, so
SmackDown has killed us.
SmackDown. We need to go and sleep that one off, I think. But yeah, until next week, guys. We'll see you all next time for another fun-filled week of wrestling.
Take it easy, dudes.
Santino Marella here. And if you're like me, you're sitting home during the quarantines. These are the times of quarantine. Well, I discovered a Wrestle Talk podcast called A to the K. It's changed my life. Now I don't want to go back to work. I just want to sit home in the quarantines and listen to Carl and Anthony. They are the best. Together, they're even better. So listen, A to the K, Wrestle Talk Podcast. Check it out, change your life. You'll be thanking me later.